The federal government is proposing a nationwide ban on commercial motorcycles and mining activities. It's got everyone hot and bothered. There's the national security interest side, championed by the government and security agencies. And then there's the other side that is looking at the fallout of so many people rendered jobless. So many Nigerians who can't afford taxis. Millions who rely on commercial motorcycles to reach unmotorable parts of the country. Then there are those who call for a partial ban. Well, whatever side of the divide you belong to, it's a conversation that must be had. And my guest will be filling us in on the Okada phenomenon and possible ways forward. Meanwhile, our focus on the nation's capital is on the FCTA restriction on commercial motorcycle operations. And we fill you in on the major stories from Nigeria's capital. This is Dateline Abuja. Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Megwa. Let's begin with a rundown of the major stories from Nigeria's seat of power. President Muhammadu Buhari has unveiled the new logo of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, signaling the takeoff of the organization as a commercial entity that will declare dividends to its over 200 million shareholders. The president is grateful to be making history with the full commercialization of the former state-owned oil company.
We are transforming our petroleum industry to strengthen its capacity and market relevance for the present and future global energy priorities. The provision of PIA 2021 have given the Nigerian petroleum industry a new impetus with improved fiscal framework, transparent governance, enhanced regulation, and the creation of a commercially driven and independent national oil company.
President Buhari has announced that a total of 266 ecological projects have been completed across the country in the last 7 years of his administration. He gave the figure at the launch of a compendium of ecological projects undertaken by his administration.
It is against this background that publications like the one being launched today become very important and a useful tool in correcting the negative public perception that government has not done anything in addressing these challenges.
The president has declared that the off-season elections in Anambra, Ekiti and Osun states have confirmed his administration's irreversible commitment to credible and violence-free polls in the country. He made the declaration when he received a delegation from Nasarawa State, led by Governor Abdullahi Sule.
Nasarawa State remains very clear to my heart. The state is undoubtedly the symbol of hope and determination in our collective efforts to entrench democracy in our country. In 2011, Nasarawa State stood out during the general elections of that year as the only state that compensated our political efforts in the then Congress for Progressive Change, the CPC.
The federal government has declared as illegal the street protest planned by the Nigeria Labour Congress in solidarity with the striking members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities. The Minister of Information and Culture, Mr. Lai Mohammed, made the declaration after the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari.
NIC is supposed to be completely insulated from politics. Now, if you declare dispute with us, yes, you can go on strike. But this particular, NLC, asking and mobilizing people to come out on strike between 26 and 27 is clearly unlawful. The federal government is as worried as NLC and everybody. But the law is the law. What we are saying is that rather than what I expect NLC to do as umbrella body is to find solution.
After his official unveiling as the running mate of the ruling All Progressives Congress, Senator Kashim Shettima met with President Buhari in the State House. The APC vice presidential candidate was accompanied to the State House by Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno State.
We are here to register our profound gratitude to the father of the nation for his leadership, for his support, and for his endorsement of my person as the vice presidential candidate, APC. We owe him a debt of gratitude. He deserves to be celebrated, and we are here to celebrate him and essentially to thank him most sincerely from the bottom of our hearts.
The National Security Council has announced that it is considering a nationwide ban on motorcycles and mining activities in the country as part of resolutions to be adopted to curb terrorist activities and cut off their sources of funding. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Mr. Abubakar Malami, made the announcement after the council meeting chaired by the President.
The government is looking at what measures to take in terms of addressing, bridging, and blocking associated source of funding, including payment for ransom, and indeed the mining activities, and the possibility or otherwise of suspending for the time being mining activities are being considered as well. Banning the motorcycles, for example. I believe the component, or perhaps the number of people that could be using the motorcycle in Nigerian state may not be up to 20% of the Nigerian population.
Minute silence, please.
The National Assembly resumed plenary sessions after observing a 3-week break for the Eid al-Kabir celebration. However, the lawmakers adjourned plenary to the next day over the death of a colleague, Mr. Jude Isse Idem. The former Accountant General of the Federation, Mr. Ahmed Idris, and his co-defendants have pleaded not guilty to a 14-count charge bordering on stealing and criminal breach of trust to the tune of 109.5 billion naira preferred against them by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. The trial judge, Justice Adeyemi Ajayi, also ordered that the defendants be remanded at the Kuje Correctional Facility pending the hearing of the bail application. The federal government has recorded a 3 trillion naira budget deficit between January and April. Speaking during the presentation of the 2023 to 2025 medium-term fiscal framework in Abuja, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, explains that the deficit further highlights the fiscal challenges confronting the federal government.
The difference is 3.09 trillion, and that means it's a deficit that we have had to finance by borrowing. That's the difference. And why are we having this difference? Because we are carrying a huge subsidy cost. This draft 2023 to 2025 MTEF has been prepared against a backdrop of the continuing global and domestic challenges in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. Factors that impact the medium-term fiscal outlook include the Russia-Ukraine war, which has assumed a new and very worrisome dimension with severe implications on food and energy prices globally.
The head of service of the Federation, Dr. Folashade Yemieson, has disclosed that a total of 3,657 civil servants have been taken before the Independent and Corrupt Practices and Related Offences Commission, ICPC, for prosecution over failure to get verified on the Integrated Personnel Payroll Information System, IPPIS. Dr. Yemieson made the disclosure during the ministerial media briefing. Welcome back. The call to ban the operations of commercial motorcycles, also known as Okada in the nation's capital, has been on for a very long time. Okada riders have been blamed for a plethora of crimes, ranging from petty theft to kidnapping to planned terrorist attacks. However, is a total ban a realistic solution? How do residents in the nation's capital feel about a ban on commercial motorcycles? Please watch this.
Tricycle and motorcycle operators represent a very important economic bloc in most states, including the Federal Capital Territory, as they provide an alternative form of public transportation services for the population. In 2006, the use of motorcycles as a means of commercial transportation was restricted in the federal capital city because of several issues, namely traffic violations, facilitating the movement of criminals, including drug traffickers. They were only allowed to operate in satellite towns and restricted from operating in the city center as well as major highways.
The effect of Okada in the FCT is multifaceted. It's not just traffic violation, it's a means of facilitating criminal activities in the FCT. It's equally alleged that Okada is used as a means of, delivering drug trafficking in the FCT as well. It's been also established that some of the Okada riders are non-Nigerians. So if you look at these multifaceted issues, I think it requires multi-sectorial approach to deal with the issue of the menace of Okada in the FCT. However, we have introduced some various regulatory mechanisms to deal with the menace.
There have been various agreements to ensure that the operations of commercial tricycles and motorcycles are restricted to designated areas, most notably the estates and suburbs. The operators have made attempts to violate the restriction order, but in most cases they are arrested, and the authorities are prepared to do more to ensure compliance.
We are introducing, the issue of rider certification for those who may be using Okada, particularly for dispatch activities. The engagement has started and the training has equally started, because until you are certified by the Directorate of Traffic Services, DRTS, it will be impossible in the next few months for you to use or ride motorcycle in the FCT.
Nevertheless, there have been divergent views by residents on the regulations of commercial motorcycles.
It's a nice development, because if you look around, most of the criminal activities happening in the federal capital revolves around those miscreants that are involved in the Okada riding. We have had scenarios where people's items will be snatched by same Okada riders and keke riders.
I believe that in cases like this, before you can place a ban, in some communities, certain background research needs to be done. So when I say certain research, for instance, it's not all communities that are easy for people, to move from one place to another. And the best way for people to move in such communities or such areas is by using bike. It's not all places that what we call keke napep, that's the motorcycle, would, pass through. In cases like this, motorbikes are just the best, avenue for people.
It's going to add a plus to the city, because with Okada, there are a lot of traffic. They cause a lot of traffic, and most of the Okada men, like the Hausas, they will not obey the road safety rules and regulations. So I believe that the ban of Okada is going to add much to the community and to the city of Abuja.
Lagos State is the latest to ban the operation of motorcycle operators. Previously, Rivers State had banned the operation in 2008 in Port Harcourt to curtail the activities of militants. Akwa Ibom did the same in 2011 for only Uyo, the state capital. Enugu followed in that step in the same year, 2011, though the law was enacted in 2014. Kaduna also banned commercial motorcycles in 2014 from operating in the city center. At the height of the Boko Haram attacks in Kano State, the State Road Traffic Agency announced a ban on Okada operations in 2017.
To dissuade the use of Okada. However, in some quarters, the issue of total ban has been suggested. And then why I think is something for the administration to think about is that already some of the states contiguous to FCT are already banning. So, and if we don't put it in our front burner to consider whether to review the use of Okada in FCT, variably in the next few years, FCT will be a dumping ground, and then the management of Okada will be overwhelming. But in our own case, we are trying our best, and I feel that dealing with the menace of Okada should be looked at from multi-sectorial approach. Thank you very much.
The Abuja master plan did not make provisions for commercial motorcycles and tricycles to operate in the capital city, and Section 42, subsection 1 of the Road Traffic Act of the FCT forbids it. However, they're increasingly gaining traction in the suburbs, and residents are hoping that a census of those rendering this special service will be captured to integrate them into the FCT transportation landscape.
My guest on the program is Mr. Lawrence Alobi, a former commissioner of police for the Federal Capital Territory. What are his thoughts on the decision by the National Security Council to ban commercial motorcycles and all mining activities in the country? Will crime really reduce with a total Okada ban? I mean, would a ban on Okada have stopped the terrorist attack at the Kuje Correctional Facility? What suggestions does he have on the way forward? Please watch this. Mr. Lawrence Alobi, welcome again to Dateline Abuja.
Thank you for having me once again.
Talk to us a bit about your thoughts on the plan for this nationwide ban on motorcycles, on commercial motorcycles and mining activities. What are your thoughts when you heard about this?
Yeah, you see, the Section 14B of the 1999 Constitution provides that the primary purpose of government is the security and welfare of the people. Then, though the people have the rights, and what are the security? In terms of sure the life of property is being protected, law is being maintained, and so forth. Citizens can go about the lawful business without terror intimidation. And then welfare includes those things that will enable and empower them to enjoy a happy life, in terms of employment, in terms of economic improvement, and so forth. And if you look at the present situation, economic, the insecurity in the country, does it not impact negatively on the welfare of the state security of the citizens, their life party? Does it not impact negatively on law and order? Is it not a threat to law and order? Does it not also threaten the welfare of the people? It does. Then if the government says, if the Section 14B says the prime purpose of government, Mr. President and the Senator, they have also wanted to uphold the Constitution, to defend and uphold the Constitution. And Section 14 says the prime purpose of government is the security and welfare of the people. Then also Section 45 of the same Nigerian Constitution, and 1999 Constitution amended, provides that no law shall invalidate any reasonable, justifiable law. The word shall invalidate any reasonably justifiable law. Reasonably justifiable law in interest of defense, public safety, public order, public morality, and public health, and also in defense of the rights and privilege and freedom of other citizens. That was what Section 45 provides. So, if the government now is conscious of its duty, its primary function of duty, responsibility is to ensure that security of the citizens is guaranteed, that the welfare of the citizens is also protected and guaranteed, and then Section 45 provides that no law in the Constitution that shall invalidate any justifiable, reasonable law when it concerns defense, public safety, public morality, public health, and in defense of the right and freedom of other citizens.
It's a lot of heavy words. National security, defense of the protecting the rights and the safety of the people.
Of that citizens. So,
if we had a ban on Okada in Nigeria, would the Kuje attacks have been stalled?
This is entirely what I was saying.
I'm asking from a security man's perspective. You've been CPL police in Abuja. In Abuja here, if we had a ban on Okada, are you saying that the Kuje attacks would not have happened?
Yes, if this law was in the country or been enacted, of course, we know that it's an offense to go. We now realize that it's an offense to drive on Okada to anywhere. And the police on this country have also a duty to enforce that law. So invariably, if there was a law banning motorcycles in Abuja, then nobody would dare. Like you want to confront the security side, to be prepared to face security agencies. So that's kind of preventive.
There's millions of Nigerians whose livelihoods depend on commercial motorcycling.
Do you know
There's
now?
also a lot of Nigerians who do not have access roads to their homes, who rely on these motorcycles. And then there's the fact that if you actually do this ban, you have rendered a lot of people jobless, millions of people. Isn't that in itself a security threat?
You see, let me tell you. You see, one thing in this country is that Nigerians emphasize on their rights. My rights, human right, human right. When they say right, they say corresponding obligations of the citizens. Section 24E of the Constitution provides that it's a constitution to every Nigerian citizen to assist in the maintenance of law and order. So even if you look at Roshu theory of social contract, the citizens have to sacrifice some of their rights. The nobody to state protect them.
Is there going to be some kind of social protection for the people who will, because a total ban, is that something that maybe a lot of people would want to, suggest to the National Security Council? If you have sent millions of people out of jobs, you have actually increased the crime rate.
So you now want...
Is there some kind of social protection that's going to happen for those people who have been rendered jobless?
Do you now want to jeopardize the life of all Nigerians to the hands of bandits and terrorists?
It's usually not one or the other. There's always a medium, there's always a halfway point.
Like I said, this is a proactive action by the government. It's just being proactive to prevent. That is, this empirically been established that it's a notorious fact that these bandits use motorcycles. It's a notorious fact. If the government, if we are Nigerians are conscious of this fact, why do we play to the gallery? Why don't we face the problem-solving approach to issues? The government wants to solve a problem. The government wants to protect their citizens. The government wants to show that law and order is being maintained. The government wants to show that when Nigerians are going about the law of this, there will be no threat. Now, to any law that's reasonable, justifiable, no act shall invalidate this law. So you see, we Nigerians should think about our obligation as citizens in line with Section 24 of the Constitution. When they say right, it's corresponding obligation.
I have seen terrorist organizations. And again, I have seen terrorist attacks happen with cars.
Yeah, but
I have seen it happen with trucks.
How many cars will come and at least abduct
a rocket launcher has been in my presence. This happened in Kano many years ago. A rocket launcher was shot at a prison, at a police station by the prison wall. It was done in a car. There wasn't a single motorcycle in sight.
No, but this is what, based on the empirical fact, based on what the reality on ground. The reality on ground that motorcycles are being used to commit crime, to commit terror, to abduct people, to kidnap people. Why should the government fold its hands? It means the government is not sensitive to the needs of the people. Government is not sensitive to its obligation as in line with Section 14B of the Constitution. So the government is trying to be responsible government. The government is trying to see to the hearing of the citizens. So I think Nigerians should understand. You see, life is based on sacrifice. And again, life is based on principle of reciprocity. And the government is trying to protect the citizens. Citizens should also assist the government and ensure they are being protected in line with Section 20 of the Constitution. So I don't think this law is obnoxious or illegal or whatever. It is not punitive. It's meant to protect the citizens. And I'm sure they're going with time, going without some mechanisms, strategies that they can, as a kind of in terms of how to solve the problem of the inconvenience to create as a result of this total ban. But the Nigerians should also see what can I do as a Nigerian citizen to contribute towards the safety and security of my country. Those who probably were generally getting involved in Okada business, they can look for other means of business. Other means of like farming or business trading and so forth. But since it is a law, they have to comply with the law of the land.
Well, Mr. Lawrence Alobi, thank you so much for being with us on Dateline Abuja, and good luck with all that you do.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks to my guest, Mr. Alobi, and everyone who spoke to us today on the program. When the National Security Act was created, it established 2 advisory councils in the interest of national security. One of them is the National Security Council. A council charged with the responsibility for matters relating to public security. It is not a council to be taken lightly. It is made up of the president and Nigeria's security chiefs. They must have their reasons. We just have to trust that our safety is top on their agenda, and we'll see how it all works out. That's Dateline Abuja this week. Please let us know the happenings in your neighborhood using the social media handles showing right now on your screen. Thank you so much for watching. I am Kayla Magwa. See you